Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about Pac-Man's latest platform game, Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures 2. But first, I want to address a few things. The first of which being that I actually really like the first game. I like the exploration, I like the environments, and I overall appreciate its more subdued tone. However, that's not what everyone wanted. With that said, if you didn't like the first one and wanted something more varied, epic, and more spectacle-driven, then this might be the game for you. As for me personally, I love this game. The graphics are very much like the first game, except a little more polished. I really like how a lot of these environments look, and there's a lot of variety on those grounds alone. Now let's talk about one of the coolest things about this game, the soundtrack. The soundtrack itself can be broken down into three categories: music from the show, music from past Pac-Man games, and get this, original music composed for this game. I have to say that the soundtrack as a whole is the best that Pac-Man has had in years. Don't believe me? Well, listen to this. And this! And this! The soundtrack really sets the mood well. When the game wants to be a little more lighthearted, it achieves that goal. When it wants to be more atmospheric, it does so as well. When it gets epic, man does it get epic! Even the reused tracks fit the stages really well a lot of the time. I mean, there are times where they don't as well, but that's not as common, and the rest of the soundtrack more than compensates for those instances. So with the presentation out of the way, let's dive right into the gameplay. Much like the last game, as well as the Pac-Man World games, your goal is to get to the end of each stage, avoiding obstacles, platforming, and eating ghosts. However, this game isn't without its share of differences from its predecessor. This time around, when you get a power-up, you can actually switch back and forth between normal Pac-Man and whatever form you most recently acquired. The power-ups themselves have been significantly improved in every way possible, and Pac-Man's movement feels much more smooth and polished. Then there's the camera. Whereas the first game had an adjustable camera, here the camera moves in a predetermined way in correspondence to your location. The level design itself mixes that of the previous game with the kind of level design you see in Pac-Man World 1 and Super Mario 3D World. In fact, I can draw quite a few parallels between this game and both of those as well. Thankfully, the game design has some more Pac-Man World 2 elements, and that's always nice to see. Despite the level design appearing to be more straightforward, I wouldn't exactly call it linear, as there is still a fair emphasis on free roaming and exploration. I would actually say that out of the 3D platformers of this variety, this is the most wide open that I've seen. Also, there are more items to collect this time around, many of which are very familiar to fans of the Pac-Man series. You got strawberries, cherries, Galaxians, you name it. It also helps that all of these items, as well as the items from the past games, have more of a purpose this time around. So exploring has more of a reward than in the last game, even though this game doesn't get quite as wide open as the first. There's also a lot of variety in this game, and the situations that you're put in can get insane. The game can be calm and atmospheric, especially in the Pac-Lantis levels, but when it gets epic, I can't believe that I'm saying this, it rivals Pac-Man World 2's size and scale. I am not joking. Some of the stages in this game rank up with my favorite stages in the whole series and platforming in general. So even already, I've been replaying some of these stages like crazy. The boss fights are also fantastic, and they also help give the game more of a climactic feel. I also found myself dying more often throughout this game's duration than I did in the first, but because I was exploring the environments like crazy, I had tons of lives, so I never got a game over. As a result, in some ways, it's definitely harder than the first, as I found the level design itself to be a bit more punishing, but in other ways it's easier, as it's very easy to get more lives. So in the end, if you like what you're seeing, I would highly recommend getting it. I have to say that it exceeded my expectations, and I was looking forward to it to begin with. I didn't just like this game, I loved it.